The unexpected war. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with activity. Representatives from 100 advanced civilizations filled the massive hall, each seated on ornate platforms that floated effortlessly in the air. The atmosphere was thick with arrogance, and much of it was directed toward the small human delegation, seated quietly at the back of the room. To most of the galaxy, humanity was a joke, a species confined to one planet for millennia, struggling to achieve even basic spacefaring technology. The Council had only invited humans as a courtesy, a gesture to show they were inclusive. But the reality was obvious. Humans were outsiders in a galaxy of giants. Primitive beings, sneered a towering, scaled alien from the Torthic race, his voice carrying across the hall. They should focus on their little planet rather than embarrassing themselves here. The room erupted in laughter. Even the representatives who didn't laugh openly smirked or exchanged amused glances. Only the humans remained composed, their expressions unreadable. Among them sat Captain Ryan Cole, a former Earth Navy officer turned diplomat. He was calm, but his sharp blue eyes scanned the room like a predator watching its prey. With respect, Ryan spoke finally, his voice cutting through the laughter. "We're here to learn, not to entertain. Mock us all you want, but don't mistake humility for weakness." The laughter stopped, replaced by an awkward silence. For a moment, it seemed Ryan's words had struck a nerve, but then the Torthic representative sneered again. "Weakness is all we've seen from your kind. What could Earth possibly contribute to the galaxy? Stories of your wars and chaos. A history of failure." Ryan leaned back in his chair, a faint smile playing on his lips. He didn't reply. Instead, he tapped a small device on the table in front of him. It sent a silent signal to the orbiting human fleet, a fleet that none of the Council members even knew existed. Outside the Council planet, hidden in the vastness of space, humanity's secret weapon lay in wait. The Phantom, Earth's first stealth ship, was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Its surface was coated with adaptive materials that bent light and energy, rendering it invisible to even the most advanced sensors. It was a marvel born not of arrogance but of necessity. For centuries, humanity had been underestimated, mocked, and even threatened by alien empires. But Earth's leaders knew the truth. Survival in a galaxy filled with predators required strength. The Phantom was the answer to that need. On board the Phantom, Commander Elena Hayes watched the Council planet through the ship's advanced surveillance systems. Her crew moved silently around her, their every action precise and efficient. They were the best of the best, chosen not just for their skills, but for their loyalty to Earth. "Signal received," said Lieutenant Carter, the ship's communications officer. "Captain Cole has activated the demonstration protocol." Elena nodded. "Begin Phase 1. Let's give them a taste of what they've been mocking." The Phantom drifted closer to the planet, completely undetected. Its systems infiltrated the Council's planetary defenses with ease, disabling surveillance grids and overriding security protocols. On the surface, the Council's technology believed everything was normal. But in reality, they were utterly exposed. Back in the Council chamber, Ryan remained silent as the aliens resumed their discussions. They spoke of trade agreements, territorial disputes, and technological exchanges, none of which involved humanity. To them, humans were insignificant. But Ryan knew better. Suddenly, a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It was a live feed from one of the Council's most secure facilities, a facility located deep beneath the planet's surface. The feed showed a small black object floating through the corridors, bypassing every security measure as if they didn't exist. The room went silent. The Torthic representative, who had been mocking humanity moments earlier, stood up in shock. "What is this? How is this possible?" Ryan leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. "That, ladies and gentlemen, is a demonstration. You've mocked us for centuries, called us weak and primitive. But tell me, can a primitive species do this?" The aliens watched in stunned silence as the object, an automated probe deployed by the Phantom, continued its path, reaching the heart of the facility. It deactivated the power core, plunging the facility into darkness before retreating just as effortlessly as it had entered. "This is impossible," muttered a representative from the Valnari, a species known for their technological prowess. "No ship, no probe, could bypass our defenses. What have you done?" Ryan smiled faintly. "We've adapted. While you laughed, we worked. While you underestimated us, we prepared. And now, here we are." The council erupted into chaos. Some representatives shouted accusations, others demanded explanations. A few, however, sat quietly, their expressions filled with a newfound respect and fear. Above the planet, the Phantom completed its mission and disappeared into the void, leaving no trace of its presence. On board, Commander Hayes received the confirmation signal from Ryan. "Phase 1 complete," she said to her crew. "Let's see if they're ready to listen now." Back in the chamber, Ryan stood, his gaze sweeping over the panicked representatives. "We're not here to start a war," he said. "We're here to show you that humanity is not to be underestimated. You've mocked us long enough. Now, it's time to talk." The aliens stared at him, their expressions a mixture of fear, confusion, and reluctant admiration. For the first time, they saw humanity not as a joke, but as a force to be reckoned with. The war wasn't one of weapons and bloodshed. It was a war of perception, and humanity had just won the first battle, a silent weapon. The Galactic Council chamber remained tense, the air crackling with the unspoken realization that humanity was no longer the harmless species they had mocked. Representatives whispered among themselves, trying to rationalize what they had just witnessed. How could a species like humans, bound by gravity on their fragile little world for so long, suddenly leap ahead of some of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy? But Ryan Cole wasn't finished. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan said, his voice calm but commanding, "what you've just seen is only the surface of what humanity has achieved. The probe you witnessed was sent by a ship currently within striking distance of this very planet, completely undetectable by any of your systems." The Torthic representative, still clutching his earlier arrogance, scoffed. "Impossible. No ship, no matter how advanced, can bypass Torthic sensors. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours." Ryan tilted his head slightly, as if amused. "I suppose it's only fair to offer a demonstration." Above the Council planet, the Phantom lay hidden in the vastness of space. Commander Elena Hayes leaned forward in her chair, her sharp eyes fixed on the holographic interface in front of her. The ship's cloaking systems hummed faintly, a sound so subtle that even the crew barely noticed it anymore. "Council chamber feed is online," reported Lieutenant Carter. "They're watching." Elena smiled. "Good. Let's give them a show. Initiate Phase 2. The Phantom activated its next maneuver. To the sensors of the Council's orbital defenses, nothing had changed. The space around the planet remained empty, calm, and secure. But the ship wasn't just cloaked. It was invisible on every possible level. Light, heat, energy signatures, even the ship's gravitational footprint were masked. It was as if the Phantom didn't exist. Inside the chamber, a holographic feed lit up again. This time, it showed the Council's primary orbital defense station, a massive construct bristling with weapons and surrounded by fleets of patrolling ships. The image was clear, detailed, and unmistakably live. "What are we looking at?" demanded the Valnari representative, her tone sharp and uneasy. Ryan's voice remained steady. "This is your most advanced defense station. Or rather, it was. Watch closely." On the screen, nothing seemed to happen at first. The station's crews moved about their duties, unaware that they were being observed. Then, without warning, every console on the station flickered and went dark. Alarms blared as systems shut down one by one, leaving the station defenseless and blind. "What have you done?" the Torthak roared, his scales flaring with anger. Ryan raised a hand, a gesture of calm. "Relax. No one was harmed, and no property was damaged. This was a demonstration of precision, not destruction. Humanity doesn't destroy for the sake of proving a point. We disable. On the Phantom, Elena watched the scene with satisfaction. "Mission accomplished," she said, her tone brisk. "They're panicking. Carter, bring the station back online. Let's not leave them defenseless." Within seconds, the defense station's systems rebooted, the alarms falling silent. The crew on board the station looked around, confused but unarmed. "Message sent," Elena said, leaning back in her chair. "Now let's see if they're ready to listen." In the council chamber, the tension had reached a breaking point. Ryan stood silently as the representatives argued, their voices a chaotic mix of fear, anger, and disbelief. Some demanded immediate action against humanity, while others insisted on negotiation. A few, more cautious than the rest, suggested that perhaps humanity wasn't as backward as they had believed. Enough. The voice of the council's presiding leader, a towering, silver-skinned creature called Serath, boomed across the chamber. The room fell silent. Serath's violet eyes focused on Ryan, their gaze sharp and analytical. "Captain Cole," Serath said slowly, "you have made your point. Humanity is not to be dismissed. But what do you want? Why reveal this to us now?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Because it was necessary. For centuries, humanity has been treated as a second-rate species, a joke. But we're not here to start a war, or to conquer. We're here to survive. And in a galaxy where strength is respected, we needed you to see that we have it." Serath tilted his head, considering Ryan's words. "And the stealth ship? This Phantom? What else are you hiding?" Ryan's smile didn't waver. "That's for humanity to know. For now, consider this a gesture of goodwill. We've shown you what we're capable of, but we've also shown restraint. We could have destroyed that station. We didn't." The Torthic representative leaned forward, his expression filled with suspicion. "Restraint or a bluff? How do we know you aren't overstating your capabilities?" Ryan's gaze turned cold, his voice dropping to a dangerous tone. "Do you really want to find out?" Far above, the Phantom hovered silently, a symbol of humanity's newfound place in the galaxy. Elena watched the council chamber feed, her expression unreadable. "Think they'll take the bait?" Carter asked, breaking the silence. "They don't have a choice," Elena replied. "They're scared, and they should be. But fear has a way of forcing people to listen. Let's see if they're smart enough to choose diplomacy over arrogance." For the first time in centuries, the Galactic Council saw humanity not as a joke, but as a force to be reckoned with. And deep in the void of space, the Phantom waited, ready to strike if that newfound respect wasn't enough. The silent war had only just begun. First test, first fear. The Galactic Council's meeting adjourned in chaos. Representatives from countless alien species whispered in their private chambers, their previously unshakable confidence now trembling. Humanity had been a convenient punchline, a species dismissed as fragile, reckless, and unworthy of respect. But the events of the day had shattered that illusion. Humanity had stealth technology beyond comprehension. And worse, they had used it to make the galaxy's most advanced defenses look like toys. Above the Council planet, the Phantom glided through the void, as silent and invisible as death itself. Inside, Commander Elena Hades monitored the comms channels flooding with encrypted chatter. Her crew worked with quiet precision, their movements rehearsed and deliberate. They were part of something larger, something that could change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. "Elena," Lieutenant Carter said, his voice breaking the silence. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command." Elena nodded. "Patch it through." The holographic image of Admiral Marcus Wren appeared on the bridge. His face was weathered but resolute, his eyes sharp. "Report." "Phase 2 was successful," Elena said. "The Council's orbital defenses are still recovering, and their leadership is rattled. The demonstration has left an impact." Wren nodded approvingly. "Good. Now comes the real test. You've been cleared to proceed to the zenith. At the mention of the zenith, a ripple of tension passed through the crew. Everyone had heard of the zenith, though few had ever seen it. The station, deep within Torthek space, was rumored to be the single most secure facility in the galaxy. If the Phantom could penetrate it, humanity's message would be undeniable. "We'll make it happen," Alina said firmly. "Permission to engage." "Granted," Vren said. His image flickered and disappeared. Alina turned to her crew, her voice steady but commanding. "Prepare for warp. This is our moment." The zenith loomed in the darkness of space, its enormous structure gleaming with the eerie glow of Torthek energy fields. The station was a fortress, equipped with defensive systems that could annihilate entire fleets. It was the pride of the Torthek Empire, a testament to their technological dominance. Unbeknownst to them, the Phantom had already arrived. Cloak holding steady, Lieutenant Carter reported. "Zenith sensors haven't picked us up." "Not surprising," Alina said. "They've never encountered anything like us. Begin Phase 3. The Phantom crept closer, its systems analyzing the Zenith's defenses. Plasma turrets rotated methodically, scanning the void for threats. Automated drones patrolled the perimeter in perfect formation. It was an impenetrable stronghold. At least, that's what the Torthek believed. Inside the Phantom, Specialist Vega worked at her console, her fingers dancing across the controls. "Encryption cracked," she announced. "I'm inside their network." "Disable their surveillance grid," Alina ordered. The Zenith sensors flickered briefly, a blip so small that might have been dismissed as a glitch. But that was all the time the Phantom needed. The ship slipped through the station's outer defenses, unnoticed and unstoppable. "We're in," Carter confirmed, his voice carrying a hint of awe. Alina nodded. "Good. Deploy the probes. Let's show them what precision looks like." Inside the zenith, chaos erupted as one system after another went offline. Surveillance feeds turned to static, doors sealed and unsealed seemingly at random, and power flickered across entire sectors. The station's commanders barked orders, their voices rising in panic. "What's happening?" demanded Commander Cuthrell, the Torthek officer in charge of the zenith. His scales shimmered with agitation as he stared at the malfunctioning systems. "Who is attacking us?" "No enemy ships detected," a technician stammered. "Our sensors show nothing, Commander." "Then why are we losing control of the station?" Cuthrell growled, slamming a clawed fist onto the console. Back aboard the Phantom, Alina watched the chaos unfold through the ship's surveillance systems. Every camera feed, every encrypted transmission, was at her fingertips. "They're scrambling," Vega said with a smirk. "They have no idea what's happening." "Good," Alina replied. "But we're not here to humiliate them. Deploy the message beacon. Let's make this personal." A small black probe detached from the Phantom and floated toward the Zenith's core. It latched onto the station's primary communications hub and began broadcasting. Every screen, every speaker, and every holographic display aboard the Zenith suddenly lit up with a single image. The emblem of Earth, a blue and green sphere encircled by stars. Then a voice echoed through the station. It was calm, deliberate, and unmistakably human. "This is humanity. You've underestimated us for centuries, dismissed us as primitive and weak. But today we stand before you as equals, or perhaps more. Let this be a warning. We do not seek war, but we will not tolerate disrespect. The choice is yours, peace or chaos." The message repeated twice before the screens went dark. Slowly, the station's systems began to return to normal, as if the chaos had been nothing more than a bad dream. In the council chamber, the Zenith's commander relayed the incident in real time, his voice shaking with fury and fear. "We couldn't detect them. We couldn't stop them. They controlled everything." The council representatives sat in stunned silence. Even the Torthak, known for their arrogance, looked shaken. Ryan Cole stood at his place, watching their reactions. He allowed the silence to stretch for a moment before speaking. "This is what we've been trying to tell you," Ryan said. "We are not the species you thought we were. You have two options: work with us or against us. But be warned, our patience is limited." For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's most powerful beings were forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. Humanity was no longer beneath them. Humanity was rising, and it was unstoppable. The betrayal. The Galactic Council chamber was quieter than it had ever been. Even the most arrogant representatives had been forced into reflection after humanity's stunning demonstration. But while some saw potential in working with humans, others saw only a threat that needed to be eliminated before it could grow any stronger. In the shadowed corridors of the Council's high tower, a secret meeting was held. Attending were representatives of the most powerful and paranoid factions, the Torthak, the Zephyrians, and the Keltar Dominion. These were species who had built their empires on dominance and fear, and they were not about to let a newcomer challenge their authority. The Torthak representative, Kajor, slammed his clawed hand onto the table. "This cannot stand. They humiliated our defenses, infiltrated the Zenith, and made us look weak. If we do nothing, the rest of the galaxy will think we're cowards." The Keltar envoy, a shadowy figure whose form seemed to ripple in and out of focus, spoke in a voice like a whispering storm. "They have already proven they possess technology that rivals our own. A direct assault may fail and further expose our vulnerabilities." The Zephyrian delegate, a slender being with crystalline skin, leaned forward. "Then we don't fight them directly. We eliminate their advantage." Hor narrowed his eyes. "What are you suggesting?" "Humanity's power lies in their stealth. Without it, they are nothing more than a fledgling species. If we can steal the technology behind their phantom, we can neutralize their threat and turn their own weapon against them." Unaware of the brewing conspiracy, Captain Ryan Cole and the human delegation returned to their modest quarters on the Council planet. Despite their outward confidence, the tension within their team was palpable. "They're rattled," Ryan said, pacing the room. "But scared enemies are the most dangerous. They won't just sit back and accept this shift in power." Dr. Mira Patel, a key scientist behind the Phantom Project, nodded. "We anticipated this. That's why the Phantom schematics were fragmented across multiple secure locations. Even if someone tries to steal it, they'll only get pieces." Ryan stopped pacing and looked at her. "But they'll try. You know that, right?" Mira adjusted her glasses. "Let them. They'll never figure it out before we're ready to deploy the next phase." "What next phase?" Ryan asked, narrowing his eyes. Mira gave him a sly smile but said nothing. In the dark of night, an elite team of alien operatives infiltrated the human delegation's base. They moved with precision, their cloaking devices rendering them nearly invisible. The operatives were from the Zephyrian Guard, masters of espionage and sabotage. Their mission was clear: breach the humans' data cores and retrieve the Phantom's blueprints. The humans had anticipated sabotage, but even they had underestimated the lengths to which their enemies would go. The Zephyrian team bypassed physical security measures with ease, their crystalline forms shimmering faintly as they moved. "Primary vault located," one operative whispered, their voice barely audible over the soft hum of their equipment. "Engaging bypass." But as soon as they accessed the terminal, the room lit up with red warning lights. A voice echoed from hidden speakers, calm yet chillingly precise. "Welcome, uninvited guests. Did you really think we wouldn't notice?" The doors slammed shut, locking the operatives inside. Panels along the walls slid open, revealing automated turrets that trained their barrels on the intruders. A hologram of Dr. Mira Patel appeared in the center of the room, her arms crossed, and an amused smirk on her face. "I hope you didn't expect this to be easy," she said. "We've been watching you since you landed." The operatives panicked, their cloaking devices flickering as they scrambled to escape. But the room's defenses weren't designed to kill, just to trap. Mira's hologram continued, her voice turning cold. "We knew someone would try to steal our technology. That's why the data you're trying to access isn't real. It's a decoy, filled with just enough misinformation to ruin whoever tries to use it. So, go ahead. Take it. I dare you." The next morning, the council chamber was abuzz with rumors. Word had spread quickly about the failed sabotage attempt, and while the humans kept their public response muted, the implications were clear. Someone had tried to betray them. Ryan stood before the council, his expression stoic, but his words sharp. "Last night, our delegation was the target of an espionage attempt. Someone here, someone in this very room, authorized an operation to steal our technology." The room fell silent, tension rippling through the assembly. Accusations began to fly, each faction pointing fingers at the others. The Torthak representative, Kajor, scoffed. "This is baseless. You have no proof that anyone from the council was involved." Ryan stepped forward, his voice like steel. "We don't need proof to know the truth. But let me make one thing clear. Any attempt to undermine humanity will not end well for those involved." Shor growled but said nothing. For the first time, the mighty Torthak seemed hesitant. Above the council planet, the Phantom remained on high alert. Commander Elena Hayes received Ryan's encrypted report and frowned. "They've already made their move," she said, addressing her crew. "But they won't stop here. Prepare for countermeasures." "What's the plan?" Lieutenant Carter asked. Elena's eyes gleamed with determination. "Simple. We hit them before they can hit us." Far from Earth, in the cold reaches of space, the Phantom activated its engines and vanished into the void. It was heading straight for the heart of the conspiracy, ready to remind the galaxy why humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. The betrayal had backfired spectacularly. And now, humanity wasn't just defending itself, it was going on the offensive. Battle of Shadows. The Phantom streaked through the void of space, cloaked in perfect invisibility. Its crew moved with calm determination, their mission clear: uncover the conspirators behind the sabotage attempt and deliver humanity's answer. Commander Elena Hayes stood at the center of the bridge, her sharp gaze fixed on the glowing holographic map. "Target locked," Lieutenant Carter announced. "The Torthak warship Dominion's Wrath is stationed at the edge of the Fenar Nebula. All intelligence suggests it's their covert meeting point." Elena's lips curled into a faint smile. "Perfect. Let's see how confident they are when the Phantom knocks on their door." The Fenar Nebula was a vast, swirling mass of gases that stretched across light years. Its chaotic energy fields made it the ideal hiding spot for those who wished to avoid detection. But for the Phantom, it was nothing more than a minor obstacle. On board the Dominion's Wrath, Shor paced the command deck, his talons clicking against the metal floor. Around him stood the Zephyrian and Keltar operatives, their forms shadowed in the dim light. "This is a dangerous game we're playing," the Zephyrian envoy murmured. "If the humans discover us here." "They won't," Kashor interrupted, his voice a low growl. "Their stealth ship is impressive, but we've deployed countermeasures throughout the nebula. If they're foolish enough to come here, they'll never leave." The Keltar envoy, whose shimmering form pulsed faintly, added, "Do not underestimate them. They've already proven their ingenuity." Kashor's scales rippled in irritation. "And I've proven mine. Let them come. They won't see the trap until it's too late." What Kajor didn't know was that the Phantom was already inside the nebula, weaving through its dense energy fields with precision. Its sensors had detected the faint signatures of cloaked mines and hidden turrets long before they came into range. "Energy spikes ahead," Carter reported. "They've set up a web of automated defenses." "Predictable," Elena said calmly. "Deploy decoy drones. Let's see how much they rely on their toys." Small, stealth-capable drones launched from the Phantom, scattering into the nebula. They emitted faint signals designed to mimic the ship's energy signature. Within moments, the mines began detonating, and the automated turrets opened fire. On board the Dominion's Wrath, alarms blared. "Commander, we're detecting multiple contacts," a Torthic officer shouted. Chor grinned, his confidence unshaken. "They've taken the bait. Focus all firepower on those signatures. Crush them before they can reach us." The turrets continued to unleash waves of plasma into the void, but no explosions followed. The decoys evaded with uncanny precision, darting through the defenses like phantoms. And then, silence. "Report." Shore barked. "Sir, the contacts are gone." Shore's grin faded. "Gone? That's impossible." A new alarm pierced the air. New contact detected. It's the Phantom decloaked directly above the Dominion's Wrath, its sleek, black hull gleaming ominously against the backdrop of the nebula. Before the Torthic ship could react, a precise electromagnetic pulse erupted from the Phantom, disabling its weapons and shields in an instant. Shore's fury erupted. How did they? The answer came in the form of a calm, chilling voice that echoed through the Dominion's Wrath's comm systems. "This is Commander Elena Hayes of the Phantom. You've been caught." On board the Phantom, Elena watched the chaos aboard the Torthic ship through a series of hacked camera feeds. Shore and his allies shouted orders, but their systems were paralyzed. "Elena," Carter said, "we've intercepted their communications. They were planning to escalate. Covert strikes against Earth, sabotage missions, and more." Elena's jaw tightened. "Transmit the evidence to the Council." "Yes, Mom." "And now," she said, her voice cold, "we send them a message they won't forget." The Phantom launched a series of controlled strikes. Precision beams of energy severed the Dominion's Wrath's engines and disabled its thrusters. The ship floated helplessly, its proud crew reduced to silence. Shore glared at the hologram of Elena Hayes that materialized on his command deck. Her calm, unflinching gaze met his with icy precision. "You dared to attack us," she said, her tone cutting. "You thought you could steal from humanity and walk away unscathed. Let this be a lesson. We do not forgive treachery. You wouldn't dare destroy us." Shore growled. "It would spark a galactic war." Elena tilted her head slightly. "You misunderstand. We're not here to destroy you. We're here to make an example of you." She gestured, and the hologram flickered. The Torthic crew watched in horror as their own encrypted communications, detailing their betrayal, were broadcast to the entire Galactic Council. "You just destroyed your own credibility," Elena said. "Good luck explaining this." As the Phantom vanished into the nebula, the Dominion's Wrath floated helplessly, its crew left to grapple with the fallout of their failed conspiracy. The Torthic's betrayal was laid bare, and the Council's reaction was swift. Back on Earth, Ryan Cole watched the Council's live proceedings as accusations flew. The Torthic and their allies were officially condemned, their influence shattered. Humanity, once mocked and underestimated, now held the moral high ground. Elena's voice came through the secure channel, calm and resolute. "Mission accomplished. We've sent the galaxy a message." Ryan nodded. "They've seen what we can do. Now, let's show them what comes next." Humanity had not only defended itself, it had turned the tables, exposing the treachery of its enemies and solidifying its place as a force to be reckoned with. The shadows had been their battleground, and in those shadows, humanity had proven its mastery. The Galactic Ultimatum. The halls of the Galactic Council reverberated with tension as representatives of countless species gathered for an emergency session. The betrayal of the Torthic and their allies had shaken the foundation of the Council's fragile unity. Humanity, once considered a peripheral player, now stood at the center of galactic politics, its power and ingenuity undeniable. Ryan Cole stood calmly at the podium in the center of the chamber. The Council's eyes bore into him, some with suspicion, others with grudging respect, and a few with outright fear. Behind Ryan, a holographic projection displayed the intercepted communications of the Torthic and their co-conspirators, a damning testimony of their treachery. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan began, his voice steady, "what you see here is not just an attack on humanity. It's an attack on the very principles this council claims to uphold. Transparency, cooperation, trust. These values mean nothing if treachery goes unpunished." The Torthek representative, Kashor, sat in his seat, his scales dull with embarrassment and rage. He had been stripped of his speaking privileges for the session, forced to endure the public airing of his shame. Ryan continued, pacing slowly. "For centuries, humanity has been mocked, underestimated, and ignored. But today, we've shown you that we are not a species to be dismissed. The question now is, what comes next?" In the observation deck of the Phantom, Commander Elena Hayes stood with her arms crossed, watching the council session through a live feed. Her crew worked quietly around her, monitoring the ship's systems and the ongoing galactic chatter. "They're scared," Lieutenant Carter said, standing beside her. "The council knows they're at a crossroads." "They should be," Elena replied, her voice cool. "The galaxy isn't as stable as they like to believe. And now they've seen what happens when they push too far." A soft chime interrupted them. Specialist Vega turned from her console. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command." Elena nodded, and the face of Admiral Marcus Spren appeared on the main display. His expression was unreadable, but his tone carried weight. "Elena, the Council is about to make a decision," he said. "If they choose unity, we'll cooperate. If they choose to remain divided." He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. "We're ready for either outcome," Elena said firmly. Vren's gaze softened slightly. "Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Humanity's rise doesn't have to be built on conflict." "Agreed," Elena said. "But we won't flinch if it does." Back in the council chamber, a heated debate erupted. Some species, like the Valneri and the Eldrin, argued for immediate reparations and a public apology to humanity. Others, led by the Zephyrians and remnants of the Torthek Alliance, warned against empowering humans further. "They have proven themselves dangerous," hissed a Zephyrian envoy, their crystalline form refracting the chamber's light. "If we allow them to grow unchecked, they could dominate us all." Ryan stepped forward, his calm demeanor unwavering. "Dangerous? Yes, we are. But not reckless. Everything humanity has done, every innovation, every action, has been in response to the galaxy's treatment of us. You mocked us, you sabotaged us, you plotted against us, and still, we have not sought revenge. We have sought only respect." The chamber quieted. Ryan's words hung in the air, heavy with truth. "We offer you a choice," Ryan said, his voice steady but firm. "Work with us, and humanity will share its technology, its knowledge, and its vision for a united galaxy. Continue to conspire against us, and we will defend ourselves with the same precision and resolve you've already seen." Above the council planet, the Phantom hovered in its invisible watch, a silent sentinel ready to intervene if necessary. Elena monitored the live proceedings, her hand resting on the console's edge. "Do you think they'll listen?" Carter asked, his tone skeptical. "They don't have a choice," Elena said. "They've seen what we're capable of. Fear is a powerful motivator." "Fear can also lead to desperation," Carter pointed out. Elena glanced at him, a faint smile on her lips. "That's why we're here." The council deliberated for hours, each faction weighing its options carefully. In the end, Sereth, the council's presiding leader, stood and raised a hand for silence. "Humanity has made its case," Sereth said, his voice resonating across the chamber. "The evidence of treachery is clear, and the actions of the Torthek and their allies cannot be ignored. But neither can humanity's rise. It is a moment that demands caution and foresight." He turned to Ryan. "Captain Kolb, the Council agrees to a formal alliance with Earth. Humanity will be granted full membership with all rights and responsibilities. In return, we expect cooperation and transparency." Ryan inclined his head. you'll have it. Humanity seeks unity, not domination. Sereth's gaze hardened slightly. See that it remains so. In the observation deck of the Phantom, cheers erupted among the crew as the decision was broadcast. Alina allowed herself a small smile, but her mind was already racing. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "Alliances are fragile. There will be those who still see us as a threat. That's why we're here," Carter said with a smirk, "to remind them what happens when they push too hard." Alina nodded. "Exactly. Humanity has its place now. Let's make sure we keep it." As the Phantom drifted back into the void, its cloaking systems engaged once more. The galaxy entered a new era, one where humanity was no longer an afterthought, but a force to be reckoned with. The Galactic Council's decision had prevented immediate conflict, but the balance of power had shifted forever. And deep in the heart of the Phantom, a single message pulsed through its systems, sent to Earth Command. It was simple, direct, and full of meaning. Phase 1 complete, awaiting next instructions. Humanity's ascension was far from over. It had only just begun. The revelation. The Galactic Council's decision to accept humanity into its ranks as equals reverberated across the galaxy. For the first time in history, a species once dismissed as insignificant now stood as a central player on the galactic stage. While some celebrated the new alliance, others simmered in silent resentment, plotting their next move. But humanity was ready. Above the Council planet, the Phantom had become a symbol of humanity's newfound power. Commander Alina Hayes stood on the bridge, reviewing intelligence reports alongside Lieutenant Carter and Specialist Vega. The ship hummed with the quiet efficiency of a crew who knew they were making history. "We've intercepted some troubling communications," Vega said, projecting a hologram of encrypted alien chatter onto the central display. "The Torthek and a few rogue factions are regrouping. They're planning something big." "Of course they are," Alina said, her tone sharp. "They can't accept that their dominance is slipping." "What's the target?" "Us," Carter replied grimly. "They've identified the Phantom as the keystone of humanity's power. If they can destroy it, they think they can dismantle our position." Alina's lips curved into a faint smile. "Let them try." On the edge of the Helios Rift, a vast expanse of twisting gravitational anomalies, a rogue fleet gathered. Ships from the Torthek, Zephyrian, and Keltar factions formed a massive armada, their combined firepower unmatched by any single entity. At the center of the fleet was a weapon of unprecedented scale, the Eclipse Array, a superweapon capable of tearing through entire planets with focused energy bursts. Kaushor, now exiled from the Council, but still a symbol of Torthek pride, stood on the command deck of his flagship. His scales glistened under the light of the holographic display as he addressed the fleet. "Humanity has embarrassed us for the last time," Kaushor growled. "Today we reclaim our place at the top. The Phantom will fall, and Earth will follow." Cheers erupted from the assembled crew, their confidence bolstered by the fleet's overwhelming strength. Back on the Phantom, Alina received the decrypted plans for the rogue fleet. Her crew worked tirelessly to analyze the data, piecing together the enemy's strategy. "They're betting everything on the Eclipse Array," Vega said. "If they fire it, not even our stealth systems will save us." "They won't get the chance," Alina replied. "This ends now. Carter, plot a course to the Helios Rift. Full cloak. Let's show them why the Phantom is feared." The Helios Rift swirled with chaotic energy as the Phantom slipped into the heart of the enemy fleet. The rogue factions had deployed advanced sensor grids and defensive drones, but none of it could detect the ship's presence. Alina and her crew moved with precision, their every action part of a meticulously crafted plan. "Phase 1, Alina said. "Disrupt their communications." Vega activated a targeted EMP burst, crippling the fleet's encrypted channels. Confusion rippled through the rogue ships as their coordinated strategy fell apart. "Phase 2, Alina continued. "Neutralize their defensive grid." Specialized drones launched from the Phantom, slipping past the fleet's automated turrets and disabling key systems with surgical precision. The enemy's once imposing defenses now lay in disarray. Phase 3, Elena said, her voice cold. Take out the Eclipse array. The Phantom fired a single precise beam of energy, targeting the superweapon's power core. The resulting explosion lit up the Helios rift, sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. On the flagship, Thor roared in fury as his carefully laid plans unraveled. His bridge crew scrambled to regain control, but it was too late. The Phantom decloaked in front of his ship, its sleek black hull gleaming ominously. A hologram of Elena Hayes appeared on Koshor's command deck. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were sharp. You should have learned by now, she said. Humanity doesn't break under pressure. We adapt. And now, your arrogance has cost you everything. Thor snarled, his claws digging into the console. You think this changes anything? Destroying my fleet won't stop the galaxy from fearing you. Elena tilted her head slightly. We don't need them to stop fearing us. We need them to understand one thing. We will defend ourselves, and we will do it better than anyone else. The Phantom fired a series of warning shots, disabling Koshor's ship's engines and weapons. The rogue fleet scattered, their morale shattered. The Phantom vanished back into the void, leaving Koshor stranded and defeated. At the next council session, Ryan Cole stood before a humbled assembly. The intercepted plans of the rogue factions were displayed for all to see, a stark reminder of the consequences of underestimating humanity. We don't seek war, Ryan said, but we won't shy away from it when necessary. Humanity has proven its capability, its resilience, and its willingness to cooperate. The question is, will you stand with us or against us? The Council voted unanimously to formalize humanity's position as a leading member. The rogue factions were condemned, and their leaders stripped of influence. As the Phantom returned to Earth orbit, Elena stood on the observation deck, watching the blue planet below. They tried to destroy us, Carter said, and we turned it into a victory. Elena nodded. That's what humanity does. We don't just survive, we thrive. The Phantom powered down, its mission complete for now. But the crew knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had carved out its place in the galaxy, not through brute force, but through ingenuity, precision, and unyielding resolve. And as the stars shimmered around them, one thing became clear: the galaxy would never be the same again.